Hello everybody and welcome to another list video here at Playing Board Games. Today, Eric is going to be talking and I'm going to be adding in and going ooh and ah and what? For 5 Hemlock Vale cards that Eric has been chewing on over the last few weeks. These are cards that, I'll let Eric do the talking. I'm just, once again, I'm here to go ooh, ah, and wow, really?
I offered to chew on a duplicate that Justin owns and Justin said no because it was product.
Yeah. I like to give away my copies of duplicates. Maybe, but I'll proxy one. We'll next year when we do 5 the Mafia cards that Eric is chewing on. It's Mafia theme for the next one.
Mafia theme for the next one. Yeah,
it's gonna be the Arkham Horror Gabagool. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. All right, let's dive in, Eric, with your first card, which is the Devil, a 1-cost, 2 experience ally, soaks for 3. When your turn begins, move 1 damage for Investigator to Devil. When Devil is defeated, deal 2 damage to each enemy and Investigator at your location.
So what I'm really interested in with this card is, there are very obviously certain investigators that want to be running this card very regularly. Mm-hmm. I could see Will York using it a lot, but I'm very curious to know where Devil sits with other decks. Mm-hmm. Specifically because I can't think of many decks that are necessarily going to want to be putting Devil in and letting Devil go off in terms of being defeated. Like, dealing that 2 damage to each enemy and investigator at your location can be really, really good. But the truth of the matter is, from what I've been experiencing lately in Arkham, you have less health than the monsters do. Like, you can't regain the health that you want. So in the end, Devil is actually only soaking for 1. And it's soaking for 1 health and 1 experience, and then dealing 2 damage, potentially to your friends, which is potentially really dangerous, but then also is potentially killing you at a bad time. Yeah. Because it's forced.
It is forced,
You also can't avoid that trigger.
Yeah. So, there's some interesting things, because I think you're right in kind of like the vacuum of Devil is going to be a card that's going to live in certain decks. Yeah. Will York, I'm pretty sure it works in Tommy Baldoon, but let's look at Tommy. Just get the exact wording on that. Everybody's lovable favorite rookie cop. I've passed him. I've gone too far.
Gone too far. I've also been thinking about people like, it's Calvin, right?
Calvin, yes.
Yeah. Calvin might want to run Devil.
It would be interesting in Calvin.
Because you could play some potential fixing of your health or your stats when you wanted more health versus less stats and kind of what you wanted to do in that circumstance.
A neat thing that you could do with Calvin, with Devil, is that you can use him to, like, take some damage off of you, get to a better point, and then when he blows up, you become a better fighter, right? Because all the damage goes on you. So Tommy, when an asset you control is defeated, you gain X resources, where X is the total amount of damage and horror on that asset, then you shuffle it into your deck. Tommy is known for playing a lot of soak. So, like, I think that's kind of where, like, the Devil leaves this idea of, oh, this damage is going to kill me. Because I think, again, with the caveat of, is this going to go into investigators besides Tommy and Yorick and potentially Calvin and also Hank, is the fact that I think you want to be playing other things to soak that 2 damage, and instead you are healing yourself with Devil's ability.
I can see that.
Because the damage doesn't need to go on you. It's just damage dealt to you, which means you can put it on something else. So, like, for example, in Tommy, in 1 turn, you can destroy the Devil and a leather coat. The 0 cost soaks for 2 health. And now you're getting 5 resources and shuffling both into your deck.
That is very true. Yeah, see, I could see that being very fun.
But, yeah.
I'm also curious about whether or not you could potentially use Devil as a weapon.
Yes.
Which is, I was thinking someone like, I don't know if Preston can run them, but Preston with his 1 stats, not particularly good at combat, but here you've got Devil where it's like, if you need to, you could potentially come in and do a lot of 2 damage to everything.
So that's actually a really interesting theory. I think you could do, let me just look at this one card. Oh no, she's not illicit. She's a human. Humans aren't illicit. But there's a card in Rogue called Lonnie Ritter. So with Lonnie Ritter, I'm just grabbing it to show to Eric. You can open up ArkhamDB and look up Lonnie Ritter yourself if you don't know. I've gone past her. But Lonnie Ritter, you can exhaust her to heal a damage from an item you control and a horror from her. Which means that you would need a charisma to get the Devil in there. And you could put the damage on like your jacket and maybe one on Preston. So then and then Lonnie could heal it and get there. I think it's not a reliable weapon, but I do think it's definitely a fun janky build that I've never even thought about doing. Because with Survivor too, you can play stuff like Chance Encounter to bring him back from the discard pile as well.
And that's what I was thinking, like as not even as a flex, but as I'm intending to be ready to help an ally.
There she is. Yeah, she also gives you +1 fist. Honestly, that seems like a really interesting Dark Horse Preston deck where you're also using the Fire Axe. I actually would be willing to explore that deck and see what we can cook with it. Because that deck does actually sound like a good time. A good deck? Not saying that, but I'm saying it sounds like a good time. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Because it kind of... Preston has that deck where you can use the Red Glove Mantigrade effect, and it kind of feels a janky kind of build like that, but with less of a reliance on getting more actions, but more just like trying to cheat damage in other ways, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like you could throw in guard dogs or something else that when it dies it has an effect.
Yeah, that's something Preston can't play guard dog, but like Tommy could. You could do that with that.
Yeah.
Daniela is another investigator who could take advantage of that. Yep, definitely. Sweet. Should we go to the next one?
Let's do it.
All right, we got Longshot. This is a practice skill. You commit it to a fight or evasion test against an enemy or location or connecting location. If test is successful, deal 1 damage to that enemy.
So the reason why I'm interested in playing around Longshot is that Longshot surprises me because it has no icons. It commits no icons. So I originally had a lot of thoughts about like I wanted to run a deck that potentially did long shots to assist a fellow player as opposed to doing damage directly myself or as opposed to engaging directly myself. And I realized that that's technically still what this is for. But without that token committal, I was like, what's going on? What am I supposed to do with this? How do I play around this? But I'm always interested. I'm increasingly interested now after playing Luke Robinson in any card that allows you to interact across locations.
Yeah.
I find it especially interesting because I don't know if this is actually true, but it seems like there's some sort of weird mechanics occasionally around like when you can and can't commit based on where you're standing and how you can interact with other players. So I thought that Longshot might be a really interesting card to throw in there. It's also one of the only cards I can think of that you can run as a support that will actually increase the damage someone else does as opposed to the hits or their chances to strike. And so, yeah, I'm really interested to see a deck that would actually run Longshot successfully.
So what I'm hearing, and I'm sure someone else has picked on this too, is that we got to get Eric Minty Fan. You got to play a Minty Fan deck because this sounds exactly what you are talking about. So Minty Fan is a Seeker Survivor Investigator, so she can play Longshot. Her ability is that once per round, each investigator, when they commit a card, they may add a wild icon to it.
Yeah.
Her signature allows her to commit 1 card to any test anywhere on the board, and she draws a card when she does. And there's a build on Min that is called Hacker Min, where you basically barricade yourself into a location and get clues remotely and help people from one location. You basically just like keep that your safe space, and you just kind of do that. And I think that is kind of like a perfect idea of what you are talking about here, because that seems like a very Min thing to do. Yeah.
Well, and I was curious too, because if you were to do something like that, like obviously you wouldn't want this to be the focus on the deck, but is there a way to do skill card recursion from your graveyard? Is there a way to get some committed skills back? Because Longshot, I've noticed, has no experience.
Yeah.
Which in theory means that if there were cards that did that, it would probably be a prime candidate.
So there's less skill recursion, because skills are powerful cards. They're one-time effects that they need a test to trigger, so they're innately powerful. However, there's skill. There's like you can like make your skill. There's a card called Practice Makes Perfect, where you search the top 9 cards of your deck for a practice card, and you may commit it to a test. Then, if that test is successful, it goes into your hand. So you basically get an additional copy of it.
That is exactly what I was thinking of then.
There's also Survivor has the tools. So Survivor and Seekers are like the skill classes. So Practice Makes Perfect is a Seeker card. Survivor also has a card, 2 cards. One called Scrounge for Supplies that lets you return a level 0 cost card to your hand. And Survivor has a skill called Resourceful that allows you to turn a Survivor card to your hand, not named Resourceful. There also is a card called True Survivor, which I actually think you might have played a one of in your Stella deck, but I'm not 100% sure. You might not have, because I don't know if you're going for that build, but it lets you return 3 innate skills to your hand. And what people usually do is one of those skills is Resourceful, and then they grab the True Survivor and they do the loop that way.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of deck I was thinking. Yeah. So it sounds like there would be some support for this. Obviously not just for Longshot, but Longshot would be one tool in your arsenal as a way to help the muscle just be able to take down enemies much faster. Yeah. Because I can't think of many cards that allow you to up damage for someone else.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, you could still commit, like, a Vicious Blow as like a Seeker if you have blue to someone else's test, and they'll still get the bonus.
Yeah.
But this one allows you to do it with, like, a little bit of range between you, so there is that difference, too.
And it's also evade. That was the big thing I was thinking of. Yeah. It'd be sick to watch, like, a Kaimani Jones with somebody long-shotting for her.
Yeah. Kaimani's actually they, them. Just...
Shoot. Thank you. Good call.
Yeah. It's one of those things, too, that I actually was thinking it'd be fun to do. I did a challenge once where I did evade only. It'd be fun to do that with you. We could bring Kaimani and Rita and use this card. You can't fight anything, but you can evade stuff. I think that's like...
That would be a lot of fun.
You can only go through that. And this does work in it, because you're not fighting. If you're evading and killing something, that still counts. Right?
Yeah. And for like one-shot cultists with Doom on them, if they were to do the evasion and then someone was to long-shot on it, then you just...
You're just happy.
Yeah, you just got rid of the problem.
It is true, actually, because I did some playtesting with Longshot recently, and the evade actually came up more than I thought it was going to. I thought this was just going to be a Vicious Blow that deals damage, like to increase your damage on attacks, but the evade is actually really chunky.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
All right, should we go to the next one?
Yeah.
All right, next one here we got is Mesir Influence. This is a 1 experience practice skill in the Mystic class. Commits for a Brain and a Wild. While this card is committed to a skill test, the performing investigator may ignore all keyword or location effects that would trigger during this test.
Now, the reason why I'm excited for this card is because I love tech. I've always loved tech in games that allows you to basically Luke Robinson. You get to skip the way that the game works. Yeah. You get to functionally disable large parts of the game that are a danger to you. Yeah. What confuses me about this card and why I'm super interested about this card is because I love its icon mix. But can you commit this card in a situation where a keyword or location effect would say that you cannot commit a skill? How does it stack on the
No, because cannot is absolute.
That's what I thought.
So cannot stops everything.
And it stops it before it comes into play. That's fair.
Yeah. But like, so this one is keyword and location effects. So yeah, this one comes down to just being a tech card, exactly like you said. I'm pretty sure someone in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, because that happens more than I'd like to admit, but not enough that makes me sad. That keyword, you may ignore keyword effects. So this also stops things like retaliate.
That's
also, I believe, there's a new keyword in Hemlock Vale that we see in some of the player cards, but we're also probably, I'm going to wager, see a lot in the campaign, called elusive, which means after you attack an enemy or an enemy with elusive attacks you, that enemy disengages from you and moves to a connected location. So I'm pretty sure that would not trigger from that. I could be wrong, but like that one is like this is like a new kind of tech that even like I haven't seen this wording commonly, so I don't know it enough to actually internalize it into my very soul.
So if it does trigger off of a lot of those creature keywords and abilities, then I can see this being a good thing to run any campaign. But my big question is, if it doesn't trigger off some creature keywords, is this a very limited, like, know the campaign you're going into tech?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, if you haven't really experienced it, slight spoilers for our Circle Undone playthrough, but Circle Undone is kind of like the campaign that this immediately screams, because, there's the haunted thing. Every time you fail and investigate,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
This would stop that, right? So, like, that's where, like, this would be, like, a good tech for a clue-getting mystic to bring, yeah.
Spoilers for our Yig campaign as well. I could see that being really good in this one, too, because there were so many things printed on the cards that were like, it's a bad thing if you stay here.
Yeah.
and this could potentially
Yeah, it's like if you fail and investigate, like if you reveal this token, take a horror, you're poisoned.
Yeah.
This would be really good for that.
yeah, but I'm really interested in it because of course I love any sort of tech that allows you to skip things or nullify negative effects. But I was like, I don't know how often you'd actually run it.
Yeah. All right, next one we got going on here is Strong Arm. This is a 1 experience innate skill, commits for a fist and a foot. While Strong Arm is committed to an attack using a melee or ranged asset, this attack deals +1 damage. After revealing chaos tokens for the skill test, you may take 1 damage to cancel that chaos token, return the chaos bag, and reveal a new one. You may do this any number of times, but I'm warning you, don't do it too much because you will die. I have personal experience. Go for it, Eric. What about this card?
So what I was wondering is, so Calvin, I don't know if Calvin can run this. Didn't think so. Okay. Are there any characters, my immediate thought on this was that are there any characters that I could build a curse deck where I can get benefits if I take damage, and I can use a card like this or other cards to choose when I get to trigger damage on myself? Because I realized with this card, what interested me about this card was that if you're, say, running Blasphemous Covenant, you might not want to cancel the token, but you still could to take the 1 damage.
So this one is also just any token as well, because curse tokens are just those. So this is like, you can stop like the auto fail with this as well. But choosing to take damage is an interesting thought experiment here. So an example of this could be that Tommy Muldoon deck we talked about. You could play this card to trigger a successful token to kill your devil, to deal 2 damage to everything, and then still hit on your attack. That could be something that you would want to do that for. It wouldn't trigger stuff like Guard Dog, because Guard Dog is only during enemy attacks. Right? I could see there's decks, there's a card in Survivor called Spirit of Humanity where you can exhaust it to deal a damage and horror to your investigator to add 2 bless tokens. Or you could exhaust it to heal your investigator and add 2 curse tokens. So like that could be something that you could do to like make your levels a bit more balanced for it as well. I could see that being an area to explore. I like it in that Tommy idea of using it to kill the devil. I think that seems pretty fun.
Well, and there's also that character who, when he dies, he becomes a new version of himself. I was thinking, like, it might be fun with Strong Arm to be able to self-proc or self-trigger that sort of thing.
And Hank actually can run innate cards. He can run, I think, 10 level 0 to 2 innate and spirit cards. So, yes, this would work for Hank. It's something that I probably would wager has happened in their playtesting, and they were like, this is pretty cool. Because, going into that mode when you want, especially, like, if you would... Like, I could see it being a use case when you would pass the test to also, like, turn it into a fail. Because I think that's what you're mostly asking, right? Like, would you want to use this card as an enabler for a combo? And I could see it. I think especially in Tommy, Tommy might just, like, take damage a few times to just gain a bunch of resources. This could essentially be an economy card for him.
Or I was thinking, who's that investigator, that blue investigator who, when he dies, he fetches an item?
Tetsuo.
You could potentially use this to just proc a Tetsuo.
Which is also really sick in Tommy, too, because
there we go.
You get some money and you get an item out of it. Yes. I think any, you might not want to do it all the time.
No.
But it means that I think that you could build a deck where you're like using this to just kill a bunch of things. Which
or just throwing this into a deck where you know you have Tommy, where you're running Tommy Muldoon and you know you have characters who when they die they proc good effects for you. And so you can have this card either to just deal that extra damage or to potentially start a combo line when, like, a person is at 1 health or the devil is at 1 health, and you're like, it would be really, I get to choose right now the damage.
And then the nice thing too is that you'll probably still end up passing the test after doing all that. So it's just like gravy on top of gravy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about it.
Yeah. It's cool. All right, we have one more card here, which is Bide Your Time. This is a 0-cost neutral event, commits for a wild. It's a double, so you have to play an additional action to play it. And during your next turn, you may take 2 additional actions.
I really find this card interesting. So I think hold actions in a lot of TTRPGs are some of the strongest technology that characters can have. And there's a reason why so many TTRPGs put so many ugly conditions on them to make them worse so that they become almost unusable.
Yeah.
Setting up triggers for when your hold action fires or things like that, as opposed to just letting you be like, I'm going to spend one round doing nothing so that next round I can do 6 actions.
Yeah.
Bide Your Time feels like the second kind of that. Like they have purposely tried to put in a condition to stop Bide Your Time from being really, really good. You're paying 2 actions for you're paying 2 actions for 2 actions down the road, as opposed to paying and a card, as opposed to paying 1 action for 1 action down the road, which would be a much better, I think, cost for a card.
Yeah.
If you could just spend a card to be like, I have an extra action next turn, that'd be a good card. With this one, I really want to make it work anyways. I want to know, for example, that we are going to flip
the act and agenda to when he goes to when you go into that final part of the scenario is when you aim to play this.
Yeah. I want to know that an enemy is going to spawn or move into my location, or I'm going to need to fight an enemy, a big monstrous enemy that doesn't move next turn, and so...
You just want to deal a million... You want to take a million actions.
You just want to take a million actions to hit it all in one go. And as a zero-cost event, I want this card to be good.
I think the card is good. I don't remember because I do this thing every year where I try to predict how good a card is going to be. So let me just look up Hemlock because I want to see what I gave this one. Knowing me, I probably gave it a 2.5, but I'm a bitter Betty. I gave it a 2. Okay, I'm a really bitter Betty.
Wow.
But the thing is, I think it's... I think this card is probably better than I'm giving it credit for in a combo potential. I think putting this card just in your deck is probably not great.
No.
You want to be taking advantage of it. So just what you were talking about it, River, now, you kind of got me brewing as well. There's a card there's a few cards in the Rogue class. Rogue class's identity is taking additional actions. There's a card called Borrowed Time where you can... It's kind of actually very similar to this, where you spend actions now to get actions next turn. So as an action, you can place a click on the card, and you get that click next turn as an action. So you're spending actions now for this. It's very similar to this card, which you could combo with this to take a million actions on your turn. There's also a card called Double Double. It's an exceptional 8 experience card, so it's going to be good, where after you play an event, you may exhaust it to play that event again, playing all costs. So if you have nothing to do on your turn, you could spend 3 actions to take 4 additional actions next turn.
Yeah.
Because you still have to pay the additional action to do it. But rogues also have an ally called Leo DeLuca, who doesn't do anything except give you an extra action each turn, which is notably very good. So you do this with Bide Your Time. You put a Borrowed Time in this. You take... You catalog it so you get your 3 actions one turn. You get those 3 extra actions. You put them back into Borrowed Time. You do Bide Your Time. Double it, so then you get next turn, you get 7 additional actions on top of your 4 actions. So you have 11 actions to work with on your next turn. It's a lot of pieces to come together perfectly, and you have to hope the game just never disrupts your plan. But it is something that could do that.
What I'm interested in, though, is like even... So that's obviously your like... going to the moon.
Yes, yeah.
But what about all the pieces individually?
Yeah.
Because I think they would still be good together. If you're getting that extra action off DeLuca and you play Bide Your Time...
You still have 2 actions left on your turn.
You still have 2 actions left on your turn, which is quite a bit of setup, quite a bit of time.
I think that even just Leo DeLuca and Bide Your Time is something that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that I think just, like, gets it done. I always look at myself as like, I play a lot of 2-player, and 2-player is you kind of have to be a realist. And in 2-player, you rarely have the time to do all these things. Mm-hmm. In 4-player, I think you can get that combo going like all the time, right? But I do think that there is a lot that you could explore with this card that is not completely obvious on first glance.
Well, I'm even thinking, so some of those cards that I took where it was like, your first action sucks and every action afterwards is
Quick
great.
learner. Yeah.
You could try to abuse that with
Yep.
Bide Your Time and characters like DeLuca and just like really go to town.
No, yeah. Because so that could be Wendy Adams because she runs all those cards. Mm-hmm. She can play Quick Learner. She can play level 0 and level 1 Leo DeLuca, and anyone can play Bide Your Time. It's a neutral card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting.
That could be a fun game.
It could be. And like she works on that really well because she can play the Tested 0, where she can use Shed a Light and Old Keyring to just get a million freaking clues during her turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Well, those were 5 Hemlock Vale cards that Eric was chewing on. This one, Eric actually just pulls out a card, and I'm like, "Where did you get that?"
Just out of my mouth, actually.
Order some cards that you're still chewing on for Hemlock Vale. Let us know down in the comments. And if you want to see us do this again in the future with the next expansion, please let me know. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one. And as always, the GGs.